When we showed the clients, the agency, the video, their first reaction was, wow, this is really nice. It's too nice. And I thought, okay, that's a good thing, right? Too nice. We over delivered. Fantastic, right? No. Welcome to the Yes, You Can podcast. In this podcast, we try to inspire you to change your mindset from you can't to you can. In this episode, I will be sharing with you two different stories about somewhat bad client experiences that I've had in the past and how I've learned from those mistakes and how they've taught me how to run my own agency. The first experience was back a few years ago. I had to shoot a mini commercial for a client of mine. It was actually for an agency that was connected to the client. And in this agency, they gave us a specific budget. I had a team of 2-3 people, including me, and we casted two kids and one parent. It was a energy bar commercial for a local brand here in Hong Kong. So, being really enthusiastic about this project, I came up with the concept and we shot the project. This project came out really well, in my opinion. It was beautifully shot, I think. We captured nice emotion moments and we conveyed the message I wanted to convey. And when we showed the clients, the agency, the video, their first reaction was, wow, this is really nice. It's too nice. And I thought, okay, that's a good thing, right? Too nice. We over delivered. Fantastic, right? No. They said it was too nice for the budget. That this is not what they were looking for. So they said, we want you to make this worse. In the edit, make it bad. And in my mind, I was confused. I was a little bit uncertain about what they meant. Make it worse? Why would you do that? And one of their first comments was, the client didn't pay for this. Why would you deliver at this quality? And with my mindset, I tried to make the best video I can with what's given. And to have someone tell me and the team or the people that I worked with at that time that this was too good. And actually the people that I hired for that project, the people that I worked with, also agreed with the agency, said we should dumb it down. So that was a terrible experience. What I've learned was you have to listen to the agency sometimes, or the client specifically. And now, in the end, instead of a well-shot commercial in my mind, it turned out to be a really text graphic heavy video with lots of information on screen, with lots of text explaining sort of the nutrition of the energy bar, the calories, and very text heavy, graphic heavy video, explainer video, rather than a promotional video, in my opinion. And at that time, when I was filming that, when I was going through that process, I thought, man, this agency doesn't know how to run a creative business. Of course, you'd want to do the best you can and over deliver. And to some extent, I still believe that. But what the mistake I made back then was I was too focused on what I wanted to make. I wasn't listening to the client. I wasn't listening to what their pain points were. If I listened more carefully, I would have realized, okay, they're looking for a promotional video, but they're also looking for a way to convey information, convey the nutritious details of the energy bar or specific features they wanted to highlight. And while I made a cool video, I maybe didn't highlight that as much as they wanted me to. So that was a lesson learned in delivering what your client is looking for and not what you're looking for. So when you're pre-production planning, when you're scoping out the project, storyboarding, writing the script and everything every single process should have that pain point in mind, your client's objection in mind. It doesn't matter if your video is cool if it doesn't achieve the client's objectives. And because there was an agency in the middle, they also didn't tell us midway that our path was wrong. So no clear person to blame here, but that's a lesson learned in really trying to understand what your client is looking for instead of going for what you're looking for. It's not your project, they're paying for it. So that was a valuable lesson to stay within the scope. And my second story today would be when I was also shooting for another agency. You'll notice that bad stories tend to come from agencies. But so this agency hired us to shoot a series of promotional videos for a campaign that their client was doing. We scoped it out properly, gave an invoice of specific deliverables and a clear timeline. In this project, it was one shooting day and we had to deliver in 2.5 weeks. So it was quick delivery, but we over-delivered and we delivered the first cut within a week or so. So it was really quick turnaround. And we made revisions afterwards. So we normally give 2 to 3 revisions. After that, the agency said, oh, my bad. We have to make more revisions because the client actually wants this and they want that. Actually, we have to change also this and maybe add something like this. The problem with that was it was outside our scope. It was outside of what we initially planned, what we initially budgeted for. And I told the client, we have to charge more for this. And they told me, well, the client's not paying us extra, so we can't pay you extra for this. You just have to get it done. And that was a terrible mistake, not on my part, on their part, on the agency's part that hired us, our production house. As an agency, as a middleman, you should have budgeted enough runway for these changes if you value-based priced. If you offer them one fixed price, you should have accommodated in your margins specific amount for contingency. Because as an agency that works closest to a client, you are taking on more risk than the people you hire, than your contractors, than the production houses. So the agency should have really budgeted higher or scoped it better. It's not the freelancer's fault, it's not the production house's fault if the agency doesn't budget or scope correctly. So that was a valuable lesson for me to budget enough runway in case we had to shoot more, in case there's more stuff to be added. I mean, case in point, we had a shoot just a few months ago and it went really well. But ultimately, we had to reshoot another scene, add another production date, and additional editing. But because I value-based price, I wasn't about to ask the client for more money because I've a value-based price so that we'll take care of it. And it's okay because I budgeted enough leeway to accommodate for any issues that might have occurred along the way. So while the client's not paying me extra for these shoots, I'm still paying my employees the additional work that they have to do, and then the equipment costs and the editing time, everything as a company, I still have to pay for. And that's okay because I take on more of the risk, right? Your employees, your contractors, your freelancers should not take on the risk. Does that make sense? We can dive into this a little bit more in a business-based episode, but these were 2 stories that taught me how I want to run my agency, what I shouldn't do. The first story with the energy bar was to really understand what your client is looking for and have clear objectives as to what they're trying to show and why they're trying to show, why they're trying to emphasize on those pain points. And still, I believe in over-delivering. And the second lesson is to treat the people that I hire with respect and to scope out better budgets that can accommodate for failure, because sometimes some things happen out of our control and you don't want to be sort of pinching every dollar for any minor changes. Imagine if after 3 edits, the client maybe want to make a minor change and you have to charge them for that. If it was like a change in like a subtle line or a shot, you don't want to charge them for that. But if you've really budgeted out the project at a low price, then you have no choice because you have to accommodate for that. But if you leave enough runway in that budget, then you don't have to worry so much about the minor changes. So that's it for these two stories that I wanted to share with you in this episode. I do have one question from our previous episode about pricing creativity and negotiation tactics. This question comes from Isaac, and he asks, how do you decide what to pay employees or interns when your company's income is project-based and this is inconsistent project-based, meaning he doesn't get consistent projects? My perspective on this is your projects as a service-based company may never be consistent. Some months we might have 5-6 projects at the same time. Some months we might only have 1 or 2. Or maybe if we're unlucky, we might get 0. But no service-based company, at least in the beginning or even maybe down the line, will ever have consistent projects. And Isaac, I think what you're worried about is how you're going to pay them consistently. And this actually goes back to the second story. You as the company, Isaac, should be the one taking the risk because you're taking on more of the pay as well, I assume, as a company. You should be. And you are giving essentially your employees or your interns a fixed salary that's a reliable income for them. And my advice is before you hire an employee or intern, you should have at least 6 months in runway. So if you're paying your part-timer $10,000 a month, you should have $60,000 in the bank untouched. In case in the 6 months you really don't make anything, you can at least pay them for 6 months. And another word of advice is if you're paying them $10,000, keep a 25% surplus as part of their salary. What I mean by that is you might be paying them $10,000, but 25% will go to what's called a burden cost, and this includes paying their insurance, their MPF, having them settle down in the office, and just money that comes and goes to make an employee comfortable. And another thing I wanted to touch on your question is inconsistent project base. And this is where your employee is going to help you out actually. If you are a single entrepreneur, as in you're the only one in your company, that means you're doing everything from sales, marketing, negotiation, the actual work. That leaves you very little time. If you're working mostly in your company, that leaves you very little time to work on your company, to work on the client management, to work on the relationships. So when you hire an employee, it should free up your time to do more client engagement, to market yourself a little bit better, to go out to networking events. So this could be a way of getting consistent projects because they're freeing up your time. But to say that you're not sure how to pay someone because your income is inconsistent as a company, that's a tough sell because I don't think a lot of service-based companies have a fixed income. Companies are not paid a salary. They are paid based on the services they provide. So that would be my answer. If you want to figure out the specific number in which you should pay them, I would say simply ask them. Simply ask them how much they want and pay them how much they want. Normally, as the founder, I would also ask them what they would like to learn, how much other value can I add to your life in terms of your career, personal development, on top of the financial rewards, because that's something that can't be achieved or obtained elsewhere. in my opinion. So I hope that answers your question. It's we can dive a little bit deeper next time, Isaac, if you come on the show. But I think that's it for this episode. A really short episode, a bit more storytelling, a bit more just my personal experiences. But if you like this episode, let me know. Feel free to ask any questions so I can answer them on the next episode. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.